A very good morning to you, ladies and gentlemen. If you do not know me, my name is Rhonda Fair. My name is Rhonda Fair, and today we are experiencing some pretty good weather today. And today, as we get nicer weather and things are starting to change, we do a cleanse. So today, I am not wearing makeup. I'm healing my eyes. I don't know if you can see. My eyes got burnt. They got burnt. Um, by bad chemicals. So now they're in their healing process. So I'm just healing them. So today I'm doing a cleanse on my face and I'm doing a cleanse in my body. And greetings to you, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you may be. May faith bring you to truth. That's how I look at it, because every one of us needs some rewiring. But it's a choice. I mean, it's actually a choice whether we want to be rewired. When you go into meditation and you're focusing on the energy in your body, and you can tell if you have, like if you shake your hands for like 5 minutes and do this. So if you shake your hands for like this for like 3 minutes, and then you hold your hand out and go like this for a couple minutes. I was doing that last night with a gentleman, and what happens is you get tingling and warm. If you don't have the tingling and warm, because that'll show the messages going to the brain and the nerve endings. And if it's not doing that, just what you need to do is just do it every day for a couple weeks, and you'll start getting the warm and the nerves working in your body. So, like if you haven't got feeling, if your hands are cold and that's the same with your feet. So once you get the nerves sending signals to the brain, then everything will start to wake up. But that's what we got to do. We got to wake our body up. We got to cleanse our body and just wake it up. So that today I went to the health store and I showed her my eyes because they need some real good love. And no matter how much I'm cleaning it, I switched over to a different kind of water and just washing everything up, and then put some castor oil in here because they have been hurt and I need to clean it. Yeah, I need to clean it. So again, my silence will be someone else's noise, and my silence is a voice, is somebody else's voice. So today, and greetings to you all, and greetings to you all, and that today that we can rewire the brain. And here is why. The thing is, when you have your brain rewired, you have to be willing. You have to be a willing participant to have your brain rewired out of the gutter. What happens if you don't do that? You're feeding the dendrites. You're not getting new dendrites. What happens is all your dendrites are getting clouded in your brain, and what they're doing is getting all tangled up with weeds. Okay? So the prefrontal cortex here, the front of the brain, our intellect, our reasoning, our judgment, I had shared a video a while back about this. And this was coming from a teaching from Barbara O'Neill. She is a scientist, a neuroscientist, and she's teaching on the battle of your mind. So I have it come back on again. And she actually has a retreat, a resort that you can actually go to, and if you can afford to, God willing, that you go there and you start cleansing your body. And she takes science and the truth together and how it's balanced. And it's really nice. It's a spa time, is what it is. And within the 21 days, you can actually have your brain rewired. Yeah. So we have our will here. We have our will, we have our intellect, we have our reasoning, and we have our judgment. And that's where God speaks to us. So other people can cause interruptions in this because they're living in the weeds. So why God is sound mind is his word is sound mind, because you're making the right decisions, proper decisions. They're coming from truth. And, we may not choose what happens to us, but we have choices what we want to do, which direction, if we want to be healed, to heal our body. You could either speak life or death upon yourself. So that's when your training is slow to speak. The sky, you become the sky and not the storm. And then you have the impulse or the choice, and you can choose calm. Yeah. So I'm just going to see, bringing this table down a bit. So if someone decides they want to be their own gods, what happens is they send out the wrong interpretations, and that's where their choice is the wrong choice. And that's why we have to go by the right choice. Yeah. So that's very much important. And also the reason why people, even in the high status of life, it does not matter, low status, high status, medium status, whatever you want to say status, we all come from the ground. But the reason why people are so attracted to empaths is because they sense that nurturing and love, and they get stuck in that trap of thinking that the empath can fix them, you see. And an empath can't fix, okay? An empath can't fix. An empath can give you space. An empath can give you peace at the door. An empath is where you can be yourself. But the empath has boundaries. So, it's good to have empathy, because without empathy, you're going to run into a lot of danger. And that's where you run into malignant narcissists and psychopaths and stuff. It's what you speak upon yourself and what you want to be. You made that choice. It's like if you brag about a mental illness that you actually become it, because you're speaking to your brain. See, and you're speaking danger to your brain, and you're going, well, the doctor said so. All the doctor knows is your behavior, the way you've been behaving. And so that doctor doesn't know why you behave that way. Because of your behaviors, right? The doctor sees the behaviors in that spectrum, and they go, okay, that behavior shows, so many traits of this example. And that's what they do. Okay. And instead of explaining how you can get out of it, so then you go home, you take all this stuff, junk, and it might help for a moment if it's really bad, if you're full of weeds, but it's not a long-term fix. Okay. So, again, you have a choice. You can have a choice to have your brain rewired and get out of that labeling yourself. Get out of that bipolar, schizophrenia, borderline, drama queen, and all this, because it's easier for someone to throw a label on and go, okay, I act like this because of this, so I'm going to be like this. And there's no excuse. Because you're just going to say, I want to be like that because, well, the doctor said so. So because the doctor said so, then I have an excuse to behave that way. But you can have your brain rewired. Do you understand what I'm saying? Let me explain. So in the front of your brain, I'm just going to turn this up because I touched my earbuds. In the front of your brain, here, where your will and your reasoning and your choices that you have, your judgment and that, people that have not decided to come face to face the fact that they have living in that stuck in the mud mindset will place harm or cause problems or troubles or stumbling blocks in front of you or at you. And you can't fix them, But those kind of people are attracted to empaths because they expect a person to fix them, and we can't. What we can do, again, is have a safe space for them, but we can't fix them. So they'll continue to do what they're doing. We all would if we stayed there, but we can have a choice to have that changed. So we can have, and that's the same within cults. If you've been brainwashed in any way, and your brain, and I'm telling you, when you're brainwashed, you're brainwashed. So you're going to believe one thing and you're going to believe it, and that's it. There is no way out, you're thinking. Like, that other person is crazy. Like, oh my gosh, they're just crazy. But if you're willing to make your silence their storm and unlearn what you know and learn, it's a choice. Okay, because we can assume things and assumptions, and what happens is, when things are happening, you look behind that story. Okay, so even though we have choices, we don't choose what happens to us because we're living with people who are still stuck in the mud mindset and not a positive mindset. But I mean, who really wants to be stuck in the mud? Really? Like, nobody does. Nobody does. And another thing, ladies and gentlemen, and if you don't want to take my word for it, you can go in the Word of God, or you can go listen to a scientist. Nobody can read your minds. Nobody can read your minds except God. Nobody can read your minds. There is the back of the mind. Back here, it's called the E-brain, the emotional brain. And when it gets in the way of your front of your brain, because the front of your brain isn't completely fully developed until you're 30. And that's why Jesus went out and did his ministry at the age of 30, if you want to look at the notes. So the whole front of the brain, right? The whole front of the brain is. So that is the E-brain, the emotional part of the brain. And then God deals with the front of the brain. So we have choices. So with the front of the brain that God deals with, he's the one that changes the heart. So we are free moral agents. We are free agents to do what we want. So we have a will to make a choice. And so my choice is I don't want to live in darkness. My choice is I don't want to place a label upon myself. My choice is unhealthy labels. My choice is to heal. My choice is to rise up. My choice is to love. My choice is to walk the right path. My choice is not to gossip. My choice is not to hate. My choice is not to harm. My choice is to love, and the righteous love. Okay? So again, we make a choice to love, or we have choices to love. But if someone forces to love someone, that is officially called rape. Okay? So if you are forced to love someone, that is rape. But if you make a choice to love, right, that's where you come in alignment. Yeah. Daniel chapter 2, the king has dreams, and that's the second coming of Jesus. Thing is, when we're having problems, like I told you with my eyes. So when my eyes are bothering me, it makes me dizzy. So now I have to heal. And when you're dizzy, it makes you anxious. It gives you butterflies, right? So you want to stay in the moment. But the thing is, it takes time. So I need to heal. If someone has other people that made choices or choose to cause stumbling blocks, they're still in the mud. It doesn't matter how much money a person has, little money or the wealthiest person in the world. That money only can give them power in the world. And if they're still living in the mud, they will cause harm, you see. So if in Daniel, it talks about in chapter 2, the king has a dream, the second coming of Jesus. That's what it means. So Isaiah 118, let's reason together. Let's reason together. It also talks about this. When it came to pass that will thy command together and reasoned, and Jesus himself drew near and went with them. 2 or 3 gathered together in my name, there I am in the midst of them, my fellow laborers whose names are in the book of life. And let the truth dwell in you. Let Christ dwell in you. So, choices. So, our brain on the left side of our brain here, our brain is, I will do it. Over here, our brain says, I won't do it. Okay? So the right side of the brain, I won't. Left side of the brain is I will. So at the age of 30, and you'll learn this in child and youth psychology, you'll learn that why is it your professor tells you or your teacher tells you that your prefrontal, your brain isn't fully developed there by the age of 30. And that is why. Because it has to go into full development. So Jesus, he started his ministry at 30, right? For the 3 years. So it started at 30. Now, when we push and nagging into someone, we are destroying them. That's why we need to mind our own business. If we clean up our own house, which is us, our personal being, and then we need to clean up our own before we start cleaning up everybody else's. Or we must have a lot of time on our hands and don't care how filthy we are inside and in our home and that. Now, we want to do not lower your standards. Every man is swift to hear and slow to speak. Every man to be swift to hear and slow to speak. Yesterday, I talked about the silence. So keep your mouth closed. Keep your mouth closed. If not, our children don't want to talk. Our partners don't want to talk. Why? Because you don't shut up. We each have time to speak. And when we overspeak someone, we destroy it. We destroy the conversation. And with children, they don't want to explain them because you've already answered for them and you don't even know what they're talking about or how they're feeling. Okay. Yeah. So transformation is louder when people see you. Forgiveness is a choice, and it is in our prefrontal cortex. And what it does is it breaks the whole hostility, breaks the chemical hostility. Okay? So once you decide, nobody can make you. So let's say you wanted to go to Barbara O'Neill's resort, which I think is fantastic. You go to Georgia, you go hang out there, and you get healing. And what happens is, you have to choose to do that. If someone forced you to do it, you're not going to learn. Right? Yeah. So, physical thorns. That is the weeds in your brain, in the dendrites. So you want to grow new dendrites. So like me having headaches. Why do I have them? Because if I am watering myself, it's because of my eyes. Okay. That's why. So then I have to take care of me. Okay, I can't take care of you, but I have to take care of me. And that's what causes the dizziness and that. So, and then it costs more money, and you have to go to our doctor and go, okay, I'll see something in your eyes, and this needs to be taken care of, and this needs to be taken care of. But the person behind it who is still living in the mud mindset needs to release her things or his things. You see, transformation is louder and forgiveness is a choice. So when we have physical thorns connecting to the dendrites from our negative actions, our negative developing, our negative thoughts, still living in there that you know better than everyone else, it makes it really unhealthy. And what happens is when you have the glymphatic system, you need it. What it does is it vacuums and cleans the mind. So to add fresh new dendrites, you have to have a willing to make a choice to heal, to make a choice to change your life. And then what happens is the glymphatic system, it is like a vacuum and it sucks all the junk out of your brain. So it's a psychological effect that happens to us, and we use forgiveness. Forgiveness is very, very important, okay? Forgiveness. And when when you say the Lord's Prayer, that's a repentance prayer. And forgive me the way I forgive others. Forgive me, when you're saying Our Father prayer, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Praising him, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, the truth. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us, 70 times 7. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever and ever. Amen. So you're always forgiving, because if you and your partner are having an argument, instead of doing the blame game, you make choices and to work it out. And that goes with anybody. Too many thorns is the weeds. And so we need weeding. So too many weeds in the glymphatic system is really plugging up the vacuum cleaner. And what happens is when it gets all plugged up, and that person is so plugged up with the weeds and they cause harm upon somebody else, what they're doing is actually sooner or later it's going to kill them. And it will kill them. So leaves you, what happens is you want to not be tangled up in the brain like that way, in a miserable way. Yeah. So we want to make a new pathway. And it takes 21 days and it takes 60 days to completely, you're out of it. But 21 days to rewire the brain. And it's a wonderful shock system to the body, to your brain, to everything. So it's called unlearning to learning. The same with learn something new and you grow a new dendrite each time. So as you see, as scientists, or you're studying the Bible, and they learn something new, you've grown a new dendrite. If you've forgiven, you've grown a new dendrite. So then the weeds start coming out. The brain is actually an electrical system, and our brain needs nutrition. Okay, our brain needs this nutrition. And so negative or sick people are attracted to emphasis, I said about. So again, we can't fix. They have to be willing to be. And I'm not interested, and not interested in digging up other people's graves. If you've got that much time on your hands, forgive and move on. Quit. You're accountable for yourself, for your actions. And more a person digs up a grave, the more weeds get in and connect into the dendrites, and it suffocates the dendrites. Now, let's say someone come in and they drugged me and they mess with my mind. That person is so full of weeds, that person's going to die too. They're going to die too. They're already dead inside. When there was a great war in heaven, when Michael and the angels were up in heaven, they fought against this awful person. this awful creature, this awful Satan, the devil, and he threw him out of heaven. So this was, Jesus defeated him. He is risen. But when people don't know that, that's why they cause problems in their ministries. That's where you go back to Adam and Eve as 1 + 1 is 2. So that Jesus, this is who God is, and he is of sound mind. The darkness of the world has blinded us, blinded you. So the righteousness to do right, his righteousness to do your body good, to your mind well, do your soul well. It opens up our blind eyes, and a lot of the wealthiest people are poor in spirit. Why? Because when they go to these resorts, because they're willing, they find out they're very poor in spirit but have lots of money. So they have to get their brains rewired to heal, and it is a choice. Isaiah chapter 37 verse 1 talks about, and it came to pass when the king Hezekiah heard it, and that he rented his clothes and covered himself in sackcloth and went into the house of the Lord. The best way to describe this, the best ways to baffle the malicious designs of enemies is to be driven to God, to our duty by them. Now, the weakest hopes of mercy should encourage, and God's children excite people this way. So I'm here explaining about science and the truth together, how it's aligned. Cause but successful men harden the hearts in evil ways. And that's why they go to here, because they made a choice, because they're going to learn. So they can use their money in a productive way. Hardened hearts are like stones. So you have all those stones, and you have all that weeds in there, and it's suffocating the dendrites and killing them off in your brain. And if you do a study in the brain, you'll find out. So the dust and plus the breath, it equals a living soul. Genesis 2:7, from dust to living soul, is the dust is gone. 1 and 1 is 2, but Adam and Eve equals Jesus. Here's the he, she, the Jesus. Surrender your prefrontal cortex in here. Men dwell in houses, that's our bodies, of clay, that their foundation is in the dust. So you have a choice to stay in there, or you can come out from there. But God has given you a living soul. Job 33:4, the Spirit of God has made me, and the breath of the Almighty has given me life. Job 28:3, the Spirit, our breath, the Spirit is breath, of God is in my nostrils. Zechariah 12:1, the Lord forms the spirit of man within him. He is called, in Hebrews 7:9, the Father of spirits. Numbers 16:22, 27:6, the God of the spirits of all flesh. Graciously placed him in the garden, cultivating and watering and given life. And that's what happens in our brain. So if we don't feed our brain healthy, like if you're feeling like if you're feeling like clouded in the brain, there's something going on. So it could be your eyes, it could be something that you're eating, whatever it may be. You got to heal. So if somebody has put those stumbling blocks in to cause problems because they're still in the dust, and they don't want to be a living soul, because they've been given a living soul. They are alive, but they're dead inside. And that's where we need to get changed. So people that are drama queens and bipolar and schizophrenia and all that, they can come out from that. But they have to be willing. As long as they keep placing that in, they're not going to have change. But it takes 21 days to rewire that brain. Because what you do is you live in fear, because man has told you you have to go that way. So you believed man. But once you learn about science and the truth about science, you'll have a change of mind. But that is your will and your choice. I am Ron DeFer from Vive Miss Basket at TTKMS. and God bless you.